So the warrior specialization is called the Spellbreaker, and I guess as the name implies, it's a warrior who kind of specializes in fighting magic users.
These folks were members of the Sunspear Order, the chosen guardians of Alona. When their order was smashed, they picked up stopping powerful wizards was the best way to protect people.
They wield daggers, and they have become so ridiculously focused at perceiving magic that now they're able to actually cut magic off of their foes.
So they've got these incredibly powerful retaliatory abilities. They've got the ability to just stop skills from working in an area, strip the enemy's boons. You don't just challenge your enemy where they're weak, you challenge them where they're strong, and you make them back down.
Spellbreaker, more like monitor breaker, because PvP. I run out of juice. Hello everyone and welcome back, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the Spellbreaker. Finally, a spec where I have every single piece of information, the weapons, the skills, the traits, the unique profession mechanics. There's a lot to cover, but keep in mind all my opinions are subject to change, just like every other elite specialization coming in with Path of Fire. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The official description for the Spellbreaker reads: the broken weapons of the Sunspears have become daggers in the hands of their descendants, which they use to strike at the very fabric of magic and strip it from their foes. They meditate to see past their enemies' defenses, and they use their adrenaline to counter attacks. My very first impressions of the Spellbreaker got me thinking that the Spellbreaker would be more of a tank elite spec, when in some ways it kind of fulfills that role, but overall it's primarily focused towards PvP, and I guess in a PvP scenario it's more tanky with ripping boons off of people and keeping yourself alive. But in PvE, much like the entirety of the community right now, we're trying to figure out how this will work in PvE. Hopefully there will be encounters where this will be needed. Here's to hoping. But past my first impressions, we have the actual details of the Spellbreaker. So let's jump right into the very first topic that I will be covering, which is the unique profession mechanic. Now their burst skills are gonna change. They no longer have 3 bars of adrenaline. They instead only have 2. And with that one burst skill, they have a second burst skill known as full counter. Absorb the next attack against you and counter-attack all foes around you. Foes struck by the counter-attack are interrupted. So this is a little bit more defensive. You have a block, and if you are attacked and you block that attack, any foe around you will be hit, and if they happen to be using a skill, they'll be interrupted. That is the unique profession mechanic. It's fairly simple, nothing too over dramatic or over complicated like the Scourge. So let's move on to the weapon skills. We have the dagger, and very fitting for a warrior, instead of just getting 1 dagger, they're instead getting 2 daggers. So the skills for the main hand dagger include precise cut, focus slash, and keen strike. The first 2 attacks in the auto attack chain will do damage and increase damage if they critically hit the target. The third one will hit the target. The player will gain might, and then if they critically hit, they gain an extra stack of might. So there's a lot of playing with critical hitting, so precision might be a good stat to go for with the Spellbreaker. The second skill is known as Aura Slicer. Leap and strike your foe, inflicting slow. So you'll have a slow condition on your second skill. It's only on a 6-second cooldown. So you have a fairly active slowing skill. For the third skill, it's known as Disrupting Stab. Inflict daze on your target. If your target is using a skill, this attack stuns and deals increased damage. More playing with the idea of stunning a target and interrupting them, making sure that they are vulnerable and finding their weaknesses. For the Offhand Dagger, we have Wastrel's Ruin. Strike your target, deals more damage to foes not using skills. So this is going to be one where you might want to follow up when you interrupt a foe, and then just lead into 4 and then do a lot of damage. Or if you can time it right and they're like dodging and they're not using a skill, just stab them. And for the 5th skill, the most flashy skill in my opinion on the dagger combination is Blade Storm. Unleash a flurry of attacks that damage foes and reflect projectiles coming from the front. So it's a nice reflect, and it also applies a vulnerability, I believe. So those are the dagger skills, fairly complex skills in my opinion, with multiple conditions that need to be met to gain the, I guess, empowered version of that skill. So now we're going to be moving on to the healing, utility, and elite skill. And the Spellbreakers are going to be gaining access to the meditation skills. For the healing skill, you have a natural healing. Lose boons and conditions, then heal yourself. And the healing, I think the flat healing is about 11,000, so it's one of the strongest heals in game. In my opinion, the most interesting part about this skill is that you lose boons and conditions, and then you heal yourself. So if I'm taking this into a PvP scenario, if I see a Spellbreaker using this skill, they're going to lose all their boons. So if they have stability on, that's going to be stripped away, and it's only after they finish casting it, then they will get the heal. So if I have a knockback, a stun, a daze, some form of CC, and I use it on them, they won't get this skill to trigger and to get that large burst of healing. So it's a very situational skill, and you have to be very cautious on using it. It does have a 1 1/4 cast time, 1 1/4 second cast time. Moving to the utility skills, we have Sight Beyond Sight, Guild Wars 1 reference. Reveal nearby foes and make your next attack a critical hit. Remove blindness. So a bit of Condi removal and making sure that you're getting those hits off of your targets. Great to reveal some thieves. You know, they're going to be playing with their elite, which is reveal or lose reveal and go into stealth. This, you can reveal them instantly once again. Next, we have Featherfoot Grace. Gain a burst of super speed and resistance, just gaining some more boons. Fairly simple. I have a feeling it's going to be really nice in PvP. The next, we have Imminent Threat. Taunt nearby foes, gaining adrenaline for each affected foe. A little bit more of, this is where I kind of got the impression that it was going to be a bit more of a tank. You know, you're going to taunt people, making sure that they are attacking you. Something that I was thinking about. And the final utility skill we have is Break Enchantments. Strike foes around you and remove their boons. Deal more damage to foes that lose a boon. So this is where that boon stripping is coming into play. And for the wonderful and absolutely jaw-dropping elite, we have Winds of Disenchantment. You will see this in the background playing throughout the videos. It's the giant bubble with like the swirling rocks. It looks amazing. It's on a 90-second cooldown. Create an area of calm where foes cannot receive boons and lose boons every interval. Projectiles entering this area are destroyed. It's a very defensive skill because you're stripping boons off of your enemy every single second, and it's a lot of boons, as well as limiting projectiles coming in. So that's the elite. It looks cool. Just the image of it is worthy of an elite. So those are the utility skills. Very good in PvP, and once again, I'm a little worried how they're going to fare in PvE. Next, I'll be moving on to the traits. The very first one is the Minor Adept, known as Spellbreaker's Conviction. Maximum adrenaline is capped at 2 bars, and only level 1 burst skills are available. Gain access to the full counter, burst, and meditation skills. I also forgot to mention the burst skill for the dagger. It's known as Breaching Strike. It's where you strike your target and you remove boons. This one is just introducing you to the Spellbreaker. The first major adept is known as Pure Strike. Deal increased critical hit damage. This bonus is doubled against boonless foes. A little bit more play with stripping boons. Next, Guard Counter. Gain protection after a successful full counter. More protection, a little bit more tankiness. Next is No Escape. Dazes and stuns inflict immobilize. A little bit more CC. The first minor master is Dispelling Force. Dazes, stuns, pulls, knockbacks, knockdowns, and launches remove boons. This is really powerful in my opinion to even be a minor, but hey, it's a little bit of a buff for the Spellbreaker. Moving into the major masters, we have Loss Aversion. Removing boons from a foe deals damage and gives you adrenaline. If you're gonna really go into that removing boons category, this is gonna be the one you wanna take. Next is Slow Counter. Full Counter applies cripple and slow, more conditions. And the final master trait, or major master trait, is Sun and Moon Style. Gain bonuses for each dagger you equip. For the main hand, interrupts grant quickness, and for the offhand, heal for a % of your outgoing critical damage. So those are the major masters. Moving on to the minor grand master, Attacker's Insight. Gain insight when disabling foes or removing boons. Full Counter refreshes all burst skills on hit. Damn. These minors are actually fairly powerful in my opinion, but I guess they're kind of needed for the Spellbreaker. Gives them a little bit more shot at being viable in a PvE scenario. Moving on to the major grandmasters, the big cojones. We have Enchantment Collapse. Removing a boon from a foe causes all nearby foes to lose additional boons. This is going to be absolutely great in PvP. Once again, PvE, I'm still a little worried. Next we have Revenge Counter. Full Counter deals additional damage and grants resistance. Copy conditions on yourself to targets you hit with Full Counter. So a bit more of an AoE condition spread. I don't know if there's going to be like some very niche builds where like you want to build condition damage for this for the Spellbreaker and just like basically epidemic it out to everybody. That'd be very interesting. I can't wait for builds like that. And the final Grandmaster, we have Mage Bane Tether. Hitting with a burst skill grants Mage Bane Tether on your target if they are within range. And the Mage Bane Tether, it reads, tether yourself to your target. If they move beyond the range threshold, pull them to you. Grant might and reveals your target every second. Boy, so that's going to be a really nice skill to use, especially in PvP once again. So I have a feeling there are two Grandmasters that are really focused on PvP. But hey, you know, gotta have a PvP spec maybe. Or I have faith that they're gonna balance it to where it's not gonna be absolutely terrible in PvE, but maybe in the beginning it's gonna be a little wonky. But we never know. We really don't know. And that is the Spellbreaker, everyone. Really nice stuff coming for PvP warriors. Sadly, for a PvE warrior, you might want to really build craft with this and just test and test and test. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that brief overview of the Spellbreaker. Subscribe for more content, like the video if you liked it, and comment down below about what you think about the Spellbreaker. Once again, I have a referral link down below for anyone who wants to buy Path of Fire. Use other content creators' links if you want to support them. It really helps them and myself. So tell your friends about it. Get everyone back in the game. It's time to play Path of Fire and take on Balthazar. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone. Mwah.